With less than a week until the Sixers media day, the roster is not fully complete as Daryl Morey is putting the finishing touches and recently added a former Warriors guard. I want to break down what Lester Quinones is going to bring to the Sixers team, expectations for the season, and how this impacts the current Sixers roster with Daryl Morey striking before things are fully set. So I want to start off and set the scene here. We did get this report from Shams Charania saying that free agent guard Lester Quinones has agreed to a two-way NBA deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, sources tell The Athletic. Quinones averaged 4.2 points in 10.1 minutes over 41 games for the Warriors over the last two seasons and will now compete for a roster spot with the 76ers. This has been something that has been going on for a while. I do want to shout out Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, who has been on this. This article was written a couple months ago at this point, even before the Paul George signing was official. And Scotto writes that, I'll give the full blurb here to kind of set the context. This helps with, the timeline of things as well as some things that did play itself out. And Scotto writes that the 76ers have had an exploratory interest in trading for Nets forward Dorian Finney-Smith, league sources told Hoops Hype, but nothing is considered imminent there. The team's number 41 overall pick, Adem Bona, is expected to land a standard contract and earn a roster spot with the 76ers, league sources told Hoops Hype. That did ultimately happen. That is the standard contract that Bona will be on for the season, although I'm sure he will split some time in the G League as well. The article continues to say that the 76ers will also cast a wide net to fill out its bench and are interested in adding some more shooting and guard depth. Philadelphia has interest in Lester Quinones, a league source told Hoops Hype. The 76ers were also linked to veteran Reggie Bullock, per Kelly Iko of The Athletic, and finishes off by saying, lastly, Kyle Lowry is still a possible candidate to return, but the Suns also have interest in his service. So ultimately, Lowry did return to the team, and obviously Lester Quinones is now a part of it as well. Now, to get a little bit of what he brings to the team, he's a scrappy guard. I'm a bit surprised to see him leave the Warriors organization because he is a guy that has embraced that style of play. All the off-ball motion that they are known for, running off pin downs, running off screens, having all that movement off ball. To be perfectly honest, that's not a lot of what the Sixers do. That is simply not the offense that we've implored here. Some of that is, comes with building around Joel Embiid, having a big man as your best player, and obviously the production that they're relying on with some of their bigger stars, which we know what Joel Embiid does. We know what Paul George is about to do on this roster. We've seen Tyrese Maxey. But for Quinones specifically, he is a guy that I think really fed into the book of Steph Curry as far as what your movement is. An example that I would make here is Jordan Poole, obviously a guy who is not having success in Washington, at least to start. He's a guy who did find that in Golden State where he was able to really model the movements and the way to play there. But there is more to his game than just that, and I do want to dive into a couple of breakdowns here. Start out with Sixers Adam of Philly Voice, who writes a little blurb on him here, and Adam writes, of Quinones' 41 NBA appearances, 37 came last year. In 10.6 minutes per game, Quinones averaged 4.4 points, 1.9 rebounds, and 1.0 assists per contest, shooting 39.7% from the field and 36.4% from beyond the arc. In the final two of three collegiate seasons at Memphis, though, Quinones shot a combined 39.4% from the three-point range on 4.1 attempts per game. Over the last two seasons, Quinones has appeared in 33 G League games and dominated, averaging 20.2 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 3.1 assists per game, while shooting 36.5% from deep on a massive volume at 7.3 attempts per game. And to bring in, shout out to Harrison Grimm for writing this little blurb here of Liberty Ballers. And he writes that Quinones is an intriguing ad to say the least. He went undrafted in the 2022 NBA draft, later signing a two-way contract with the Golden State Warriors and splitting time in the G League with the Santa Cruz Warriors. Quinones had a strong first year in the G League, averaging 17.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 2.7 assists, including a 42.8 rebound performance against the Salt Lake City Stars. Quinones eventually signed a second two-way contract with the Warriors, later playing his way into a full-time standard deal mid-year. The Warriors did not offer him a new contract, and he has been a free agent since. There's two areas of intrigue with Quinones: his shooting ability and his combined size and frame. Quinones shot 43.6% from three on 5.6 attempts per game in the G League in his first year. His second and most recent year, he saw a dramatic shift in efficiency as his percentage dropped to 31.4% on a much higher volume at 9.3 attempts. Sixer fans will always appreciate a player that's willing to let it fly, but he'll need to recapture some of that first-year efficiency. Quinones also has a good frame for a combo guard at 6'4" with a 6'10" wingspan. The Sixers have made it an emphasis this offseason to add lengthy players, and he fits right into this mold. So a lot of good stuff here. I will say I did get a chance to catch Quinones in a G League game against the Delaware Bluecoats on one occasion down there. The dude does seem like a far better player than a G League guy. I think he fits that build of a player who is a little too good for the G League, but hasn't quite found his stride at the NBA level. I've talked a lot on this channel about kind of how the balance and the different challenges when you're kind of going back and forth between that high usage role with the G League, where you're asked to be the guy, and when you do slide up to the NBA level, where you're more kind of a complementary piece who have to play off others, it's not always the easiest transition. And I think for Quinones specifically, he's going to have to figure that one out. But this is not a guy that I see growing into, a signature part of an offense. But what I do think he could be is a gritty defense first guy. He does have a scrappiness to him. The 6'10" wingspan is absolutely an asset there, and something that I think the Sixers have especially leaned into, having a bunch more versatility. This particular Sixers roster this year has way more switchability and versatility, positionless basketball that fits the modern game than we've seen from a lot of rosters built around Joel Embiid, and Quinones is a part of that. And obviously, the shot is going to be the driving force, the factor here. I do think he unfortunately falls in the category of players that if he's knocking three-pointers down at a reliable rate, there is a spot for him in the league. If he is not, that's unfortunately the end of that. Now, I'm pretty optimistic about him defensively. That's really the role that I would like to see him carve out, is being a guy who is a pest defensively, can be that combo guard type defender. The wingspan's good. He does have a physically commanding presence as he's willing to get in on ball handlers, kind of mix up their dribble and really just not make it an easy time. That's stuff that's really appealing to me and stuff that I think he can further lean into as a player to kind of carve out his identity there. Not quite a Patrick Beverley, but sort of cut from that cloth as far as a guy that will get under your skin. He'll talk a little trash. He'll be physical with you, just not let anything go easy. Now, this addition also makes a decision to be made on the Sixers roster as a whole. As we do know, the three two-way contracts that they did have were already set, and Keith Smith of Spot Rack here tweets out the Sixers currently have all three two-way spots filled. In order to add Lester Quinones, Philadelphia will have to waive one of Jeff Doughton, Justin Edwards, or David Jones. Now, Jeff Doughton of the three, I think, is the least likely to get released from this team. He's a guy who's been around for quite some time, looked really solid in his Sixers with the Sixers last year. Obviously, a Nick Nurse guy who he brought over from Toronto. That's a guy that I do see sticking around here. Justin Edwards is a guy I'm particularly excited about, a local kid from Philadelphia, a top recruit that went to Kentucky, and things just did not quite play itself out. I was encouraged by what I saw from Edwards in the summer league. Another guy that I think is inching towards that identity as a defense-first player, and he is a guy that I think when you have that pedigree as far as being a top 5 recruit and things just not playing out, I think it's worth taking on a gamble. And by the way, the track record for Kentucky guards, pretty strong there. So Justin Edwards is a guy I would be disappointed if he is leaving the organization, but I'm not fully taking that off the table there. And then David Jones, the last talking point here. That's the guy that I would circle as the most likely that I think will be off the roster. I like David Jones. I'm intrigued by him. But if I have to place a gamble right now of who will have the better NBA career, Lester Quinones or David Jones, I would go with Lester Quinones here. And I think that's probably the calculations in Daryl Morey's head. I will point out that David Jones has played far better basketball than what we saw from him in Summer League. He looked, in my opinion, pretty dreadful in Summer League. There really was very few moments where I thought we felt his impact. If anything, it's once again kind of on that defensive style, that menacing, getting under people's skin, being physically just a presence, creating turnovers. He was kind of active in that regard, but really was never able to get on the right foot as far as a scorer. And that was his calling card at Memphis in college, as he was a guy that, filled up the buckets and really got things done there. So I think, and to be completely fair to him, the same thing happened with Ricky Council IV last year, that he just really struggled in the setting of Summer League. I believe he shot 0 of 11 from 3. He definitely was 0 for however many attempts that he did throw up. And ultimately, we see what Ricky Council IV has turned out to be. So I'm not counting David Jones out forever. I think that guy does deserve an NBA chance to an extent, but I do think there is a more proven track record with Lester Quinones, who's been around the league for 2 years and obviously has already shown some signs of promise there. So ultimately, I do just want to celebrate one more time. I do appreciate from Daryl Morey this continued attention to the bottom of the roster, that every roster spot matters, and it does seem like there's this dedication to maximize all these positions in a way which has not always been the case with this Sixers team. So shout out to Lester Quinones. Welcome to Philadelphia. Shout out to you guys for tuning in this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you have any level of excitement for Quinones? He's not a guy that I think we'll see a ton of, but once again, I do celebrate just this continued attention being paid to this roster and bring in as much talent to the organization as can possibly be the case. So appreciate you guys once again. Make sure you are smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like on this video, and any comments you have below. And I'll be talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.